Welcome to the Working Lunch, the Slow Chambers weekly series where we hope to bring you up to date on some of the exciting things happening in our region. I'm Jim D'Antona, President and CEO of the Slow Chamber, and welcome to the 50th episode of our Working Lunch and a year of doing these fun interviews. Today we are joined by Mary Verdin, President and Chief Strategy Officer for Verdin Marketing. Mary founded Verdin in 2003 and continues to lead the full-service communications firm offering branding, marketing, and PR services to local, regional, and national organizations. Mary's been honored by the Public Relations Society of America as a Professional of the Year, received a Stevie Award for Women in Business, been recognized by the Pacific Coast Business Times 40 Under 40 and Top 50 Women in Business. Mary has also spent countless hours giving back to the community as an active Rotarian, Rotary Day Telosa Club, as a mentor to Cal Poly students through the Public Relations Student Society of America, and she currently serves as past president for the Community Foundation in San Luis Obispo County. Perhaps most importantly, we are lucky to have her as a board member here at the Slow Chamber. I'm looking forward to talking with Mary about what inspires her work, some of Verdin's signature campaign, and the intersection of community service and marketing. Mary, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here. I've been enjoying these segments and honored to be part of it.
Well, it's truly our pleasure. And as we sit down to lunch, could you give us where are you zooming in from today?
Well, I'm in my, somewhat busy background, not the greatest Zoom background, but it's my home office. It's very comfortable. Everything I need is right here. And so, yeah, I'm working from home today.
It's the amazing part of going through this pandemic is we've gotten a little glimpse into everybody's houses on what they look like. So I think it looks wonderful.
Thanks.
I always like to start by learning a little bit more about, how people's career path started. Can you take us back to a 10 or 11-year-old Mary? And what was your life like and what were you interested in?
Well, so let's see. When I was 10 or 11, it's funny because people often ask, especially when I'm talking to students, when did you know you wanted to go into marketing, and how did you know, and was it your path for a long time? And it makes me think back to when I was around 10, 11, 12 years old. And I started a weekly magazine. We were living in Las Vegas at the time, and I went around to all my neighbors and sold subscriptions. My poor neighbors are probably like, yeah, we'll give you $1, whatever. And I sold subscription to this weekly magazine I was planning on producing. And I have it because I often bring it up when I'm talking to students or new employees who are asking me about my path. And so this is one that I produced in November of 1977. It's, as you can see, very tattered. It's got a nice little yarn binding on it, but it's got, everything a magazine should have. It's got a soap opera, puzzles, it's got a short story, it's got comics, an interview with Fonzie, for those of you who might know who Fonzie is, and a quiz, of course, is the date test is in here. I need to take that one, have my husband take that too. And then it's full of ads as well. So it's kind of funny when I look back and think, well, you know what, maybe I didn't know what this career was yet, but maybe it was something I've been priming and grooming myself for all this time.
Well, it's so amazing because, you would think some people are writers and they enjoy the writing part. The fact that you figured out that ads are a part of a periodical, a magazine, and some of the key parts, apparently, because it sounds like you have multiple pages of it, must have meant you saw that very early on as an issue, a way that you have to communicate.
I just missed the revenue piece of it. I wasn't getting someone was supposed to pay me for those ads.
And that's why you figured that out and moved on to what you're doing today. I mentioned a little in the intro, but you really do a tremendous amount of community service. Was that something that your parents instilled in you or something you just kind of gravitated to?
I talk about this a lot, probably a lot of people know this, but I'm an Air Force brat. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and my dad was in the Air Force, and we traveled a lot. I figured out in my first 18 years of life, I lived in 9 different cities or states or countries. We moved around quite a bit. So we never really there was really never traction in a community because we would be there for 6 months or 2 years and then we would move on to the next place. So I think that it really was something that was waiting, to bloom. And when I moved to San Luis Obispo in 1991 and got involved with a couple nonprofits, and I saw how rewarding that was and how I could use my talents, things that were easy for me to do could actually make a difference for somebody else. And that really kind of ignited that passion in giving back and being part of the community and trying to make a difference.
So that's extremely interesting. And again, might have some tag back to the moving around and really kind of once you get settled, get involved in the place you were in, build those roots in, because I do know you're famous for your giving in there. But what were your first impressions of SLO and what kind of initially brought you here back in 91?
Well, I actually have lived in San Luis Obispo 3 different times in my life. So when my dad was stationed in Thailand during the Vietnam War, we lived here, and I went to C.L. Smith Elementary School for kindergarten, the afternoon class. And then we moved away to Germany after that. And then later in high school, I moved back and lived here for a year and a half and graduated from San Luis High and had family living here at the time. So then later in life, when I was a grown up and I got to choose where I was going to live, I did move around a lot. I'm used to things changing. I had been living in the same place for about 6 years. And the only place I have ever lived that I felt like I'd want to move back to was San Luis Obispo, and still had family here. My aunt and uncle had been a very important part of my life. They were here. So that's how I chose to come back here.
So you had plenty of experience with it in different stages of your life. And when you finally came back, you had some basis to make that kind of connection. Now, when you were coming your way back, had you already been in the marketing kind of PR world, or was that something that picked up when you got here?
I had not been. I was actually working in retail. I was the manager of a Gap store in Reno. And it was before the Gap was in San Luis and then left. But I was on the verge of being promoted into a larger store in San Francisco. And I loved it. I loved the merchandising. I loved the customers. I loved, that part of it. But I realized that if I made that move, that was kind of cementing, this is my career. And I had read a book back in college that I got at the San Luis Library about advertising writing. And it was like the light shone through the clouds and angels were singing. It's all the things that I love to do, and actually somebody would pay me to do them, and that could be a career. And so I never returned that book, but I did pay for it. I told them I lost it and I paid for it. And I still have it. 1984 is the checkout stamp on the inside of the book. But it was like I was afraid if I gave the book back, I'd forget that this could be some. So it was always in the back of my head. And then when I moved here, I was working at Wells Fargo Bank as a new account rep, and I had the opportunity to meet Dave Cox, and I was his first employee. I started working there even before Maggie did, and that it was just such a dream come true for me to be able to do that.
Well, yeah, that's incredible, and of course, learning from a really great force there in that firm and what they were doing. What spurred you to take the leap to found your own agency?
Well, I was fortunate. I worked for them for 13 years, and we went from Dave and I to about 28 people. And that journey was really such a great experience for me because I got to touch all the different areas of an agency. And I'm pretty proactive person, I think. And so, and again, wanting that change and to keep things challenging. If we needed to hire somebody, I'd be like, well, gosh, we need a production manager. Maybe I should do that. We'll hire somebody to do my current job. So it was just constantly learning and growing. And I got to a point where there was no place else for me to go. And Dave and Maggie were, forces in the community and weren't ready to retire. And so I was thinking, I don't know if I want to do that or not. My husband's super entrepreneurial. His family is very entrepreneurial. And so I got a lot of support there, and I thought, okay, let's try it.
Well, and so when you did that, and obviously it's incredible to make that leap out on your own, probably a little scary. What was your kind of vision for it when you founded it?
You know, it's funny. Well, and I remember when it was announced that I was going to be leaving, I remember people saying, "Oh, you're so brave." And that's actually what kind of made me nervous. It's like, well, I'm not trying to be brave. I just need a new challenge. But you know, I think my vision for it, I just wanted to make a difference. And you know, being able to contribute to a business or organization and what they are trying to achieve, it's just a really meaningful thing for me. And even to this day in our strategic plan, kind of the purpose we have listed for what we do, why we do what we do, is to do our part to make the world better. And that's really what really we're trying to do.
Well, and looking at it, you know, obviously for, you know, that's 18 years that you've been kind of doing it on your own, beyond what you did when you started with the Cox, Barnett Cox. How do you stay inspired and creative? Are there any resources you turn to keep that going?
Well, the chamber offers lots of great resources, and I'm inspired by the people I meet through the chamber every day. I'm inspired by my team. I mean, I really take to heart that idea of hire people who are better at things than you are, because I can't do everything as good as everybody else. And it's really, when our creative team comes up with the magic that they do, where they take a client's challenge and understand who they're trying to reach and what they're trying to achieve, and they come back with these amazing concepts. I mean, that inspires me for sure. But another thing I like to do, well, I follow a lot of advertising and creative, like I get e-newsletters and that type of thing, and watch all kinds of funny and inspiring ads, and that always is great. But one thing I like to do, and my team might not even know this, but I think it's so fun to take like a communication arts magazine, some kind of a creative magazine, and just open it up to a page, and whatever photography is there or whatever illustration is there, say, okay, make an ad for X client, and have to take whatever that image is. And, you know, maybe that's a frog playing a trumpet. And now I'm going to have to how do I make that an ad for one of our clients? How do I make that a business bank ad? And it's ridiculous. And probably we'd never go to that client and say, I have an idea. It has a frog and a trumpet. But it makes you think outside of the box, not to use an overused phrase, but it really makes you look at things differently. I think the other thing that, you know, we've had to really innovate with our brainstorming process, because we are remote. We're not in the same room together. And that's really the magic of brainstorming, is somebody throws out something, maybe it's a joke, and somebody else says, well, wait, no, what if we change it like this? It could be this great idea. And our creative director, Megan, came up with this really great idea of, we use Miro, which is an online platform. You can use Post-it notes and move them around. And we'll do some stuff together, and then everybody has to brainstorm on their own and come up with these ideas. And then we have to sell them. And you have to pick the idea you think is the best one. And then you have to pick the idea that is the craziest, absolutely ridiculous, but you have to sell it in a way that says that you really believe in this idea. And so it's been really a great way to break down inhibitions, because people know, oh, this is actually her silly idea, but she's really going for it. And it's been a fun way to do that too.
It's incredible. That sounds like it would be, yeah, again, unlocking your ability to think, because you have to describe this. You have to get out of the box, like you said, and do something that's crazy, and you know it's crazy. But who knows? You never know as you throw these things up, whether that spurs other thoughts. But I love that. I think that's so interesting, and probably has applicability all over the place in terms of thinking on any brainstorm. That's very fun.
Yeah.
Well, so what are some of the common misconceptions that people have about marketing that you encounter, you know, and has that changed kind of over the years?
Well, I think one thing is when people think they don't do marketing, that somebody, I mean, I have had people say, oh, you know, I don't really I don't really do marketing or advertising. It's just word of mouth. And I always say, well, do you have a sign on the front of your building? Because that's actually marketing. It's telling people who you are and where you are, and maybe even what you do. And then word of mouth, certainly that's a form of marketing as well, that you're doing a great job and building ambassadors for your brand, and they're telling other people about it. So that's one thing I was kind of smile at. But I think the big thing, people, having been in marketing for 30 years, people often will ask or state that, gosh, marketing has changed so much in the last 30 years. It must just be completely different from what it was when you started in 1991. And really no, because marketing has always, and I think always will be, about the right message to the right person at the right time. And it's the method we use, the channels we use to get that message to those audiences that changes. And, so certainly everything going digital, it's when I first started, it's like if you wanted to buy an ad, you had 3 radio stations, a TV station, and one newspaper. It was basically it, right? And so there are so many opportunities and ways to get the message out, but so many opportunities to really dial it in and be really targeted in your message and reach every audience differently. It's no longer, men 25 to 54. It's men 25 to 30 who like to golf and live in North County. You can just get so tight and targeted with things. It really shows for great results, and it's very cost effective.
Well, and looking at that, and with all those new technologies, do you always kind of recommend your clients stay on those, whatever the brand new hot trend fad is, or is it different for everyone?
It really depends on who they're trying to reach. That really ultimately, any marketing should start with, who are you trying to reach and why do they care? Why are they going to buy your product instead of buying the one right next to it, or go to the bank down the street instead of yours? And I think that, there's a big mix. We still buy a lot of traditional media, certainly a place and an important medium for us to use. We buy, digital is, it's again where your audience is. And sometimes we will have people come to us and say, oh, everybody's doing Snapchat, so we want to take all the money in Facebook and put it in Snapchat. It's like, well, but your audience will just pull something out of thin air. Your audience is women 65 plus. They're not on Snapchat, so we don't need to do Snapchat. But sometimes people feel like, oh, it's the new thing, everybody's talking about it, I need to be there. And so it's just really making sure you've got the data, right? You want to strategically be able to tie it back to who your audience is, where they are, and how you're really going to get in front of them.
That's incredible, and a great recommendation, because it really talks, again, if you tried to reach Jim D'Antona on TikTok or Snapchat, you missed him, right? That's not where I was going to be. So all of you bourbon wine makers, stick to the other pieces. That's where I am. And so one of the first things I wanted to comment on, and I was so excited to talk to you about this, is when I first got to the community, one of those first things I learned about Verdin Marketing was the 24-hour give. This seems like it's this fabulous confluence of your two passions, kind of community service and your work. For the people watching who may have never heard of the 24-hour give, though I think almost everybody has, could you give us a quick summary of what that is?
Yeah, so this was an idea that I'm in an ad agency owner peer group, and a friend of mine who's the president of an agency in Minnesota had done something similar. And so we adopted that with her blessing. And we basically select a nonprofit and we rebrand them literally within 24 hours. And so that is a new logo, a new website, videos, photography, marketing strategy, social media graphics. It's really everything. And we've had such great support from the community. We have the media and printers, are donating. We had Embassy Suites had donated a gala. I think they did that 3 years in a row. It's really been a cool thing. And our goal with it is to find a nonprofit who could really take that rebrand and leverage it and do more of the good work they do and that maybe they don't have the resources to be able to do that themselves. So that's really been it.
Well, and that's what, yeah, it's so interesting because again, nonprofits sometimes are spending a lot of time just staying afloat, right? They don't have the time bandwidth to think about all these things. And so, bringing on a great firm like yours to in 24 hours is such wonderful work for the nonprofit. But I would like, what is it like to be part of the team staying up for 24 hours doing that work? Are you guys enjoy that? Is that fun?
It's, we, all the feels, right? We laugh, we cry, we scream, we take a nap maybe. But it's one of those things, it's a little bit of an unintended side benefit from this. A couple of things, actually. It is a great team building exercise, just like anything. I mean, I liken it to leadership. You go through the leadership program, you're going to have times where you have tension with other people, where you disagree on things, where you're tired, you got to work stuff out. And when you get through all that, you're actually a much more cohesive group and a tighter group. And that's really been true with our team. It has helped to build our team, and I think is a very rewarding experience when we end that. So we start at a Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, and Friday morning at 8 o'clock, we do the reveal to the nonprofit and the community and their board and everybody. And after that, it's just, you see the impact of all this work all at one time. It's just super, super rewarding. And then we also, I think every time we've done it, which of course we had to change it up for 2020, but every other year we've done it, there have been procedural process improvements that we've made because we had to get things done so quickly. It's like, this piece of it could actually apply to how we do our regular work and make us more efficient. And I'm an impatient person. I don't want things to take too long. I'm customer service focused. I want clients to get things quickly. So anything we can do to add value and make it a faster, more efficient process is always good with me.
It's really exciting, and I can imagine being in there, doing some of those things. I've never done it on the marketing side, but it sounds like an intense process, but also a really rewarding process. Because again, I'm sure these folks that you're doing it for are super appreciative of the work you're doing, because it's just something that they would not probably be able to fit in their budget. And so, thinking about this time that you were just referencing, a little different time that we just went through. And it's been a difficult time for many businesses. And in your 27 years, you've seen several large economic downturns. Are there any strategies or advice you give clients to help weather these kind of lean times?
It's, again, with marketing, the important thing about marketing is letting people know who you are and what you do and why they should care about it. And I could probably argue that that's even more important when there is a downturn, because if people are still spending money doing something, they need to know you're there. I think there are a lot of opportunities. There's paid media certainly is a great way to inform people about who you are and what you do. And then that idea of owned media, a lot of people have been talking more about. So every business owns some of their own media, which is their e-newsletter, their social media channels, anything like that, their website that they have control over, that they can use to put their messages out there. That's going to be a very cost-effective thing to do. They just need to put the time into it to do it right and make sure they're keeping it current and engaging with people who are responding. So my late father-in-law had a great line he used to tell me. And this actually, when I had met him, I didn't know him very, very long, and he knew I was in this field. And he said, well, here's how I feel about advertising. I'm thinking, oh no, what if he thinks it's a bad idea? And he, a restaurant owner and in the restaurant business all his life. And he said, when business is good, I advertise. And when business is bad, I advertise. And so, and I think that's true. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to cut back a little bit, but you want to maintain a presence because you don't want to lose your piece of the pie, or maybe you can expand your piece of the pie.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It definitely feels like you don't want to create that self-fulfilling prophecy of I think we're going to have less business, then cut your marketing, advertising, and then have less business and go, see, I knew it, because
Right.
you almost created your own issue.
Right.
Now, we have a great question on Facebook that I want to kind of share, and I think it's a great one. Is it hard to work with an office full of creative types?
Well, I don't know how many of my creative types are listening. So of course it's the best thing in the world. No, it's actually not. I mean, it's, I think in any successful endeavor, sometimes there can be tension, but that's how you get to the better end result, right? And I mean, I just like everybody on my team so much, just personally, and respect the creative abilities and the strategic abilities they bring to the table. It's a joy.
I'm definitely, because I'm sure there's other sides where you end up with a company full of mechanical engineers. That's got to be tough, right? So I'm sure there's balances on both, but both drive to some really great outcomes. So that's good to hear. Well, and I can't believe we're already through our time here. And I always ask this final question because I always love to hear what's happening, what people are doing. What are you looking forward to doing this weekend?
Oh, this weekend is actually a very special weekend. And in fact, I'm wearing my Disney earrings because we are leaving tomorrow afternoon to go down to Disneyland for 2 days, Sunday, Monday, in the parks all day, and hopefully with minimal wait times.
That's incredible. So yeah, they've got to have a pretty reduced amount of people in there, right?
It's 25% right now. And I don't know how that will change after June 15th, if that will increase, but I figure I don't care how long I need to wait in that line, the online queue. I was in it for the long haul.
As a Disney nerd who spent many years with annual passes, 25% in that park, that's going to be amazing. That'll be a kind of a special gift. So enjoy that. That sounds so fun. And, again, with less people in there outside, that should be a blast, except for that drive down. But I'm sure you'll be fine with that.
We're flying.
Oh, nice. Even better. Wow, that does sound like fun. Well, Mary, I want to thank you for, taking the time to talk today. It was so wonderful to spend some time together and having you share kind of some of these insights, which I think for our business community is so important and things we definitely need to be thinking about.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, and thank you all of you for eating lunch with us. Join us next week. We'll be talking with the folks over at Morris & Garitano Insurance Services. I'm looking forward to talking about their long history in this community, the status of the insurance market, especially here in California, and with the ongoing challenges of climate change, what the future of insurance looks like. Thanks for watching and tuning in. We really appreciate the support you've given the program. We hope you have a wonderful weekend and stay healthy and safe out there. Thanks, everyone.